Welcome in, Buffs Nation, to another edition of S2S Colorado Live. As always, I'm your host, Manny. Please make sure to give me a follow on X at Manny_303 and Instagram at 303_Manny. Also, you can catch me on any one of your podcast platforms, major platforms, again, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, again, or wherever it is that you get your podcast at. So today's show, real quick, I want to thank you guys for being with us as well. It's news has slowed down a little bit, right? And, portal's right around the corner, so we'll be diving into that. But today's news, Ralphie Report, news and notes of the day. We'll go into some recruiting a little bit, more so of who's hit the portal. And one of the biggest needs this offseason basically is one of the biggest topics is Colorado's biggest needs this offseason. So let's jump right into this. So the Ralphie Report. So we have just a couple of things that came out this past week. Corey Phillips, so he has taken a job with Memphis as the general manager. He was as the player personnel, overseeing player personnel, essentially the general manager. He's taking a job now with Memphis. Coach Box, so Darius Darden-Box, he will take over in this role for Corey Phillips. Again, someone that was, I don't want to say underneath, but somebody that was underneath Corey Phillips at that point, right, as far as like pecking order goes, but somebody that played a huge role, Coach Box did, in the recruiting department. So he will now take that role over, and hopefully he can do a great job with it. Alexis Ellis, so recruiting assistant, is stepping down as well. This all happened last week, so it is, some big news happening, some shaking, that we thought was happening, that was going to take place this offseason. Again, the recruiting department, it just seems like something missed this offseason, right? So again, they were not fired or let go, nothing like that. It was just more so that they were stepping down for whatever that may be. And again, we'll see how this shakes up. And again, a huge portal is upon us. So we'll see what Colorado adds, to replace Coach Phillips. We'll see what they do as far as Alexis Ellis's position, but just a lot of moving parts as we thought there would be this offseason. So, but that's where we're at. Not a ton of news with the Ralphie Report, not a ton of news and notes right now. It's that slow time of year. We're now in bowl season / playoff season. So let's dive into some recruiting. So, and I don't even know if recruiting, maybe it should just be called losses in the portal right now. But a guy that we talked about last week, we had Miles on last week. We talked about Jaheim Otis. So he's entered the portal. And again, this is not a shock. He is one that has a ton of talent. And I was one that, you could see when he was out there doing his thing, man, he could play. He was just a really good football player, really good defensive lineman. My hope, is that wherever it is that he ends up, he gets it figured out. Again, never going to root against any of these young men. Wish him nothing but the best. So hopefully Jaheim can go somewhere, land somewhere, and really show what he is capable of. That is my hope for that young man, because he has a ton of talent. I believe he has a young son or daughter. I can't remember. So hopefully, he can get himself a big payday getting drafted or whatever it may be the following year. But I'm, he's one that I will root for moving forward. Again, he has all the talent in the world. Now, so the list now. Jaheim Otis, so he will be. Oh, hold on. I think somebody. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Humble Tech says missing your weekly updates and buff information downloads. Missing college football. Congrats to all the teams that made the playoffs. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that, Humble Tech. And the off season came and went that quickly. But the shows are going to be cut down a little bit. Not a ton of content to talk about. So, and I'm sure as we get closer, again, this season, the summer, those kind of things, we will, have a few more shows going. But as of right now, there's just not a ton of news. In a couple weeks, we will be having a ton of news with the portal opening, though. So that may even be hosting podcasts the night of or something like that are unplanned and just kind of roll with it and see what happens. But yeah, back to the list with Jaheim Oatis, Mantrez Walker, Noah King, Terrence Love, place kicker, so hopefully I say this right, Alexander Stoyanovich, and TJ Branch. So TJ Branch just announced today, a couple hours ago, maybe 4 or 5 hours ago, but that is, it's a big one. He was one of the recruits that came in last year. He was a freshman, didn't get a lot of playing time. I thought he looked good in spring ball, but this is one that, this is one that stings a little bit, but again, kind of goes back to what Coach Prime was talking about. Like, you cannot put all your eggs into the basket there for recruiting because 50%, around that number, they're going to be gone. And again, as Colorado senior, right, you lose Mantrez Walker, TJ Branch so far, right? So far. And I think that's a big loss. I was real excited for this kid. So, as we get closer to this January 2nd window, I expect to see a lot more players enter the portal at that time. This is just the new reality of college football. I think just about, 10 minutes ago, I saw a thing that said Jada Mayava has re-signed to stay at USC, and it's like, wait, what? So, it's just that new era we have to get used to right now. So, again, as it gets closer, I expect a lot more of these players to be entering the portal, right? And big names are going to enter, right? We've seen from Nebraska, Dylan Raiola, he's entered the portal, right? And he could do the funniest thing ever if he really wanted to, and I think we all kind of know what that is. Hopefully that young man starts paving a way for himself, though, because he does have a ton of talent, whether we like him or not. He does have a ton of talent, so hopefully he starts paving a way for himself a little bit and developing his own identity for himself, right? And the funny thing I was talking about is him going to Texas Tech, right, like Patrick Mahomes. So hopefully he figures out he ends up where he needs to end up and start paving his own path a little bit. So and then, as we get closer to the portal opening, again, I expect a massive haul in the portal. I think they are going to spend a ton of money here. Jaheim Oatis, they get a lot of money back with him entering the portal now. What was it? Somewhere around $800,000, $900,000, but they get a good chunk of change back, and hopefully, it's used wiser this time around. Again, one of the things I've been hearing from, whomever it may be, is that Colorado they're essentially going to be, think 2024 Texas Tech. We talked about that last week, but I think this portal is going to be massive, and I think us Colorado fans are going to be happy with the haul that they do bring in. So, and again, the time is now to strike with Julian Lewis. So, we'll continue to keep updating you guys on it. This portal's not going anywhere. I know last year I was just, doing that thing. The day it opened, just refresh, right, on Twitter or X. Just kept refreshing it because I didn't want to miss anything, right? And maybe that, hopefully that's not the case this year, but I do think a massive haul is coming here for Colorado. Coming for Colorado here. Again, think 2024 Texas Tech. Let's see. Humble Texan says, I didn't know that they get money back for Oatis, and I still don't know how we get the money required to be competitive in the portal. I keep hearing we will have a large haul, but I don't see how. Yeah, I've been reading that's a great question. Because he is no longer on the team, so you do not have to pay him. So he's gone, right? You paid him for last year, right? And the money, I mean, I have a couple of hunches of what's going on. Again, nothing concrete, but we'll just leave it at that for now. Secondly, I do think I was reading, who was it? Jeremy Bloom. And what was the name of the company? That there may be some. Oh gosh, I got to think of the company. I should have had this. It's going to be a big investment. It was talking about like $500 million within the program, just like, was it Utah? Similar to what Utah just did. So and it's going to turn into a thing. So, just across the landscape of college football as well. So we'll see what that looks like. But I believe that's where the money is going to be coming from. So Colorado, again, they're going to be players this transfer portal window. So let's dive into this, the meat of the show today. Colorado's biggest needs for next year. So, man, this was tough, right? I was thinking about how do I want to structure this a little bit, right? Like, where are these needs at? Where were they the worst at? And just kind of, and then I guess I got to the point where I wanted to tier it. And so I tiered it. Essentially, it's going to be your biggest needs, like stop, red lights flashing, sirens, right? All those things. These are the ones. And I came up with 3 positions, and then a one that's not so much, maybe we're okay at, and then places they are good at, in my opinion. And again, doesn't mean that you cannot ever add enough talent, but just kind of wanted to do a deep dive into what is needed for this next year. So let's talk about this. The first one I had, just the biggest glaring number one need is a linebacker, right? And before that, I probably would have said offensive coordinator, but we're keeping it on the field here. But Brendan Marion seems like a solid hire. But biggest need for next year, linebacker. And again, you have these true freshmen coming in: Carson Crawford, Colby Johnson, and Rodney Colton. But they are true freshmen, and it's not very often that they get to start and they're the starter from the get-go. And again, that would be fantastic if they were and they were ready to play. But again, these are still, kids that are 10 months removed from high school football, right? And then you're asking them to play at a Power 4 level. And by the way, the Buffs open at Georgia Tech next year, right? So it's tough. That's tough. But I think the linebacker core, it was a huge hole this past offseason. This should be one of the top targets in a few weeks in the portal. Like, I don't think there's any way around it. This has been a position of need. Nikhai Hill-Green, when he was here, fantastic linebacker, but there was still limitations, right? Like, we knew that coverage was an issue, right? The same with Levante Bentley. Those dudes could still play, right? They were thumpers. They would light somebody up once a game, twice a game, right? You could hear, you knew who hit them if you could just hear it, right? But there were still questions around it, right? Like Nikhai Hill-Green, do not get me wrong, fantastic player, but right, there was still a little bit of limitations there, right? So I think that is going to be where you see the Buffs be very, very aggressive. I know whatever that whole craziness that happened in Michigan over this past week, just insane story, right? And I right away started thinking of what are they going to do? Like, right, your Bryce Underwoods, and more specifically, NOB, right? I'm very, very, he almost signed last year. I'm really curious to see what he does. I think I was reading something that he may stay, but man, I don't know. That program is I think they're going to lose a lot of players here in the portal over these next few weeks. It's going to be, we'll see what happens, but I mean, I know that NOB comes here. That dude's probably going to, he'll be able to start day one for Colorado. He's just that good. Yep, Branch went into the portal. Yep, we were just talking about that. So, yep, in the portal. Again, it's just the reality of the world we live in, right? Right now with the transfer portal. But I think this linebacking core is going to be a huge hole. It's been a huge hole, and should be probably the top priority. Because again, it's just been, I don't want to call it neglected, but man, they've missed at linebacker these past couple years. I think we can all agree on that. So I think that is going to be the biggest position of need for the Buffs. I think they are going to attack that thing, and we'll see what happens, right? I'm sitting here trying to think of, the linebackers returning. There's not a ton there. So, they're going to have to hit that hard. So that, I would say, that is position one that is the most needed. 2, so I went back and forth with this one a little bit, but I went with cornerback. And the reason I'm here is Buffs really don't have a cornerback. Right? Like RJ Johnson's coming back, but is he, there's a lot of hype around him last offseason, was playing okay, right? Nothing was great about it. But, the question is, was he good enough to continue playing? And then he got hurt and he's out for quite some time. So, and again, these are guys that have not hit the portal yet. Again, I do not know if they will or will not enter. These are just guys as of right now that are not in the portal. Makari Vickers, he struggled last year, right? In man-to-man as a corner. I'm still high on him when he came over from Oklahoma last year. He is one that I think with more reps, he was a sophomore last year, right? That big step's going to take place this offseason, if it's going to take place, right? But Makari Vickers, I think with time he'll get better. And again, as of right now, he is on the roster. And then Makari Vickers, RJ Johnson coming back again, like we talked. There's not a lot there. Preston Ashley is coming in, but they need an outside cornerback and a slot cornerback due to Hodge graduating, right? And again, I don't want to put that on Preston Ashley. He's coming in as a true freshman. They're not going to start a lot. But, and again, I would love for him to start, right? Like, because he's that damn good. I just don't think that's a realistic expectation, right? That we see to place on these freshmen. I believe he will play, but it won't be in that starting role. And if it is, it won't be till later in the season. But I do think should be the second, cornerback position. So we'll see what they do there. But again, the Buffs have, this is the position, and again, RJ Johnson coming back again. Hopefully he comes back better. Makari Vickers, hopefully he gets better with time. But again, I don't think you can count on that. I be careful with it, because last year they went into it. I think it was even prime last year. It was like, I have a room full of guys that could play, right? And as we seen, like, was not the case, right? That was just a really rough, again, one of the worst spots of the defense. There was not a lot of positives from the defense outside of the two freshman ends, right? McPherson and London Merritt, but and I guess Tawfiq Byard. So I'll be cool with that. So, but Tawfiq. Outside of those two guys, I mean, three guys, there wasn't a lot to be very happy about with it, or where you were like encouraged, I guess. So we'll see what they do there. But that slot cornerback position is going to be interesting to me, because again, how often Colorado runs man-to-man. You need a really good slot corner, cover in space. Outside corners as well, you're going to be on an island a lot. And they like their corners a little bit taller as well there at CU. So we'll see where they go. And then the second or the third one where I was kind of like, you have to fix this, is D tackle. So not D line, D tackle, because at the edge position, you have London Merritt, you have Alex McPherson, right? Those dudes are going to start next year. And again, not saying that they don't need depth there, but the defensive tackle, Otis is gone, like we talked about again. They will be returning BDS. Christian Hudson's there, and Gabriel Lightfoot, he'll be back. Gabriel Lightfoot was the transfer last year from Fresno State. I said that is a solid group, but they need a dog at D tackle. You need someone that can just, dominate, eat some blocks, get after it, right? You need a, block bully again, essentially. And Colorado, they're going to need that big D tackle, and they're going to need to build some more depth at this position. But I am very excited for Christian Hudson. BDS, I think, is going to be good. And then Gabriel Lightfoot returning. I think Lightfoot is going to have Lightfoot's going to have a much better season. I think he's going to be healthy and be able to show what he can do. I was high on him last year, but so I hope he shows up ready to roll in spring ball. But again, we'll see where this team is at that point. But I do think they're going to add a couple D tackles, and they need to get a dog. They absolutely need to get a dog there. So, Rodney Freeman says there's a cornerback who entered the portal from Florida State and Auburn. They are pretty good. Yeah, I was looking at where did I have them? So I like to save some screenshots of them. I can't. Oh, man, I know you're talking. Yeah, I think that would be because he's 6'2". How come I'm drawing a blank here? Let me see if I can find him real quick. Where was he? Florida State. But he is, what was his name? Yeah, I was looking at him the other day, and I think he is. I want to say he's on. Where was I at? Florida State. Yeah, here he is. We're talking. Dang, this was just yesterday. Kai Bates, right? That's who we're talking about for Florida State, number 14. I believe that is who it is. 6'2", 195 cornerback. 3 years of eligibility left. Was a 4-star recruit in the 2024 class. Yeah, he is one that's on my radar. I really like him a lot. Fits that mold, that that 6 foot, 6'1" and above for the way that they play corner there, at Colorado. So I'm pretty excited about. I want to say that hopefully they go land him, but that is one that caught my eyes immediately. I think it was yesterday or Sunday. I can't remember, but that would be a very, very good get for Colorado. So yeah, we'll see what they do there. And then the next tier. So it's the tier I had was not so much. And as I'm going too, if you guys want to put in the chat what, if you agree, disagree, what you guys think what they should do or the biggest needs, go ahead and put that in the chat. More the merrier, right? In time for Christmas. But so not so much. Maybe, we're in like this different tier, kind of like, yeah, but they're going to need some depth here, right? And I put O-line here. So, at first I was kind of like, man, all those dudes are losing on the offensive line. This is going to be a mess again. So they're returning Seton and Larry Johnson, right? That played this past year. I'm interested to see what Yaya does as well. He got a couple reps in, couple plays in. Is that I can't remember what the position was, but and then they have Carday Smith and Chauncey Gooden. So I think just as far as starters go, they are going to have to build a bunch of depth here with this position, though. I would expect to see 4, if not 5, new offensive linemen come in, and again, it's not to start. But it's that depth piece, right? Offensive line, defensive line, cornerback, you're going to need a ton of a depth there, right? Because so many injuries happen in the trenches, right? And again, linebackers are always putting their nose in there. You need a lot of depth at those positions as well as cornerback due to the coverage and the wear and tear throughout the season. So, but O-line, they need a starting center. So, though they're going to go pick up a starting center in the portal, and possibly a guard. Kind of depends on what they decide to do. Larry Johnson's kind of an outlier to me right now. And the reason I say that is because there's fully expect next year for Carday Smith to start. 4-star recruit that came in with Julian Lewis last year. Fully expect him to start. That kid has amazing footwork. Really, really, really happy with just watching him work out. You could just see the footwork, and it was kind of one of those things. It's like, man, that kid is huge and he can move like that. Like it was crazy to watch. As Coach Hart and DB coach got to Mathis, no, nothing. I have not heard anything around that. Rumblings, but nothing concrete yet. So just something to tune into. And again, I am interested, and don't get too upset with this comment, everyone. But I do think I am interested to see what Coach Hart could do with some ballers at linebacker. So let's see. And again, that's part of are they not getting these dudes because of Coach Hart or whatever it may be? I don't know what it is, but I would love to see him. Love to see him get these a few good linebackers and really good linebackers in and see what he could do with them. And then Coach Mathis. I haven't heard anything around that. Maybe I missed it. I know that, again, like I said, there's been some rumblings around it, but there's nothing that's been concrete about it. But offensive line. So I think that should be good. They're going to need a starting center, so watch for that. And then possibly a guard. And again, you could always kick Larry Johnson into one of the guard positions as well. Chauncey Gooden's going to be a guard, right? So as of right now, you have Seton, going from left to right. Your left tackle, Seton, left guard, probably I would play Chauncey Gooden there. Center, there is no center right now. Again, that'd be nice to have Cash Cleveland there. Your right guard, you could put Larry Johnson there, right tackle, Carday Smith. So again, that center, though, is going to be a huge, huge hole to fill. Patrick Surtain. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I saw he was fired from Florida State. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world with his son playing there, here in Denver. So, I mean, it would make all the sense in the world for him to link up and, be a part of this Colorado staff for sure. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. When are the Buffs going to be better? Yeah, I think let's see what they do in the portal. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but they do have a really, really good quarterback, right? We know that about Julian Lewis. And again, you have a quarterback, you have a chance in every single game. So she says, my oldest son is asking. We'll see what they do in the portal. Yeah, I'm not going to overshoot this year. I'm going to really, really look at this roster. So I really want to look at the guys that they do bring in, the snap counts. I think the snap counts are super important just to see how much someone has played, right? Like the more film you have on them, the better, and the more experience they have, right? Because those guys that don't have a ton of film on them, right, it makes you kind of start to wonder a little bit about why they're in the portal, and two, how good are they really, right? Because there's not a lot of film, not a lot of data on them. So, I'm gonna hold my prediction this year. Let's see. Box Game 22 says, I just think the coach is too old school for these kids. They don't know the new wave of routes, footwork, technique, etc. I mean, you could be right. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say I know all these things about all, what they're teaching, what they're not teaching. I would as much as I would love to say, oh yeah, absolutely, right, your whip routes and all these different things, I don't know what they're running. Like, to be quite honest with you, even watching a lot of the all 22 from last year, trying to figure out what the offense was trying to do was really confusing. Like, you would watch it and just kind of sit there scratching your head a little bit because it was tough to watch. And I think, numerous people have said that, but it was there was no plan. There was no plan. So Brennan Marion is a hell of a coach. So I think that's one. Pay attention to what he has to say, what he does. But I think that is kind of that new school mentality that we're looking at. So I think they do understand that. And I do think that man-to-man, they can't run so much of it. And again, this year they didn't run as much though. So as much man-to-man as we talked about last week with Miles. So I think he had somewhere, it was a lot less than last year, or less than last year. I don't want to say a lot less. It was somewhere around there, less than last year, which is good. But I think I'm just curious to see what those early numbers look like as far as man-to-man, because they were running it a lot at the beginning of the year, as far as I remember. But again, just maybe that's something as well. Ronnie Freeman says, what do you think about the linebacker from Bowling Green? Any word on some? I have not got to watch any film on that linebacker. So I did see, what was his name? Somebody was sending it. I don't remember. I didn't get to watch it. I don't remember his name. I do know someone did send it to me, and I just hadn't had the time right now to go over it. But yeah, I think, and again, I think Rodney next week would be the show next week's going to be on portal. It's essentially going to be on portal players that we would like to see Colorado look at. So I think that's what we'll jump into next week. And that'll be a lot of fun. So have your wish list ready, or whomever it is. I'll have mine ready, and we'll just talk about some players, because I have a handful, and one of the things that I really like to do is talk about those guys that nobody knows about. So, or the under the radar guys, right? Your guys at, FCS schools, right? Or even your D2 schools, right? Like, those are the guys that I have a ton of interest in. So, and yeah, as far as Surtain, no, I haven't heard anything, and I'll reach out to see if there's anything going on with that, and see how much information they have, but I'll check into that for sure though. The only Box Game 22 says they only have high school and JSU experience, no top coaching experience at the college level. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I absolutely understand that. They do have to get it somewhere though, right? So again, we'll see. I'm very big into sometimes, you gotta let some people grow into the job. And I'm kind of curious what that looks. Again, being a man-to-man all the time is not sustainable unless you have two all-pro corners, right? Or two Big 12 corners, right? All conference corners. that is going to be a struggle, right? Because even at times last year, right, when Travis Hunter was here, DJ McKinney, right, they were doing good on the outside. But, man, there were times when you would see Preston Hodge get beat, right? He would get beat, and he was a hell of a slot corner the year before. So, again, man-to-man's tough to run. It is tough to run, but if you can be really good at it, man, that makes you really, really dangerous, and I understand. It makes your defense that much more flexible. It makes the quarterback have to throw into tight windows. It forces a lot more mistakes. But with that being said, though, right, and it opens up the blitzing, right? And also, if you have a front four that can get to the quarterback and drop four and cut, those kind of things, you have your rats, your buzz coming on, all these different things, all these different elements. I do think, though, that what I would say is that this team last year really struggled, and some of it was talent problems, right? Personnel problems, right? And I would say like 70% of it was personnel problems. The other 40% was on coaching, right? They played way too much man-to-man. They did a lot of things. Even the way they defended read option was, in my opinion, was not good. Like we talked about Preston Hodge having all these tackles and all these different, it's like they were putting him on an island to defend a read option. That's not what you want. So hopefully that clears it up a little bit. Let's see the talent they bring in. And again, I'm never going to be, one for firing coaches. I don't think that's the way to successfully build a program at any level. Are they going to Drax 99 T7Q? Are they going to bring in a QB that can run the go-go offense? They got one. They got one in Julian Lewis. So, and again, you do not need to be an option quarterback, anything like that, to run this offense, right? That does, I don't know where that came from. Julian Lewis is going to run this just fine. I mean, Julian Lewis is athletic enough. I think that's one of the parts of his game that people don't give him a ton of credit for. But you will see Julian Lewis is going to look amazing next year. I am like 110% sure. I know Miles was on here last week, and he's like, I'm putting my stake down. He's going to win the Heisman. Man, I'm with him. He's going to be in the conversation next year if they win enough football games. So I think this is a very, very good offense for Julian Lewis. So now my thing was, and we'll dive into the quarterback here in a bit. Let's see. At Bach Game 22, would Coach Lane Kiffin, Nick Saban, Oregon coach hire any of CU's current staff? I mean, it's all connections, though. Just to be completely, all of these are right. When they talk about the good old boys club, this is kind of what they're talking about. Like, it's kind of who you know. A lot of these guys have some type of relationship with that coach or coached with them before. One of the ones I always look at is USC with Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch. He was the D coordinator for USC, and it almost took Lincoln Riley losing his job for them to fire Alex Grinch. Like, all of these things are built off of relationships. Like, if you look at any single coaching staff, for the most part, I would say 80-90% of them, they go back and they've had some kind of interaction on a staff or whatever it may be throughout time. So again, they're going to hire people that they are familiar with. I don't know if they would. I know that Coach D coordinator. Why am I blanking right now? He had some offers last year and wanted to stay. He wanted to stay with CU last year. So again, it's kind of who though, right? You're not gonna. It's the same kind of thing. If your job's on the line, you're gonna hire people that are good people that you can surround yourself with. So, I don't know. I don't know. Right now, I would say no, but again, that's the SEC as well, right? Like, that's a whole different brand of football that's played there. I don't know, but I know I'm happy with Brendan Marion. So, have you watched film on the go-go offense? The QB needs to be a legit running threat. It's a triple option offense. I would say if you could, we talked about this last week. Laura Levy posted a clip. I'm going to go try to find it for you guys, but it's not necessarily, and then even Brendan Marion said, you don't need to actually run this. So there's that diamond formation. Julian Lewis is good enough mobile enough, I should say, to run that. I would, let me see if I can find this, but it's not I wouldn't call it a triple option offense. There's a lot of throwing, a lot of things that happen there. I'm going to post this video. Let me see if it's still there. This was from a couple weeks ago, so I'm going to scroll back quite a ways to see if I can find it. But let me see. Where is it? Yeah, she posted because she was asking for it a couple weeks ago about the go offense, and someone posted like a real quick 3-minute video of it. But I think, again, like I said, Julian Lewis is a very good fit for it. And again, without seeing him in it for the first time, it's going to be hard to say, oh, perfect fit, this or that. But I think it's a very good fit for what Colorado is, what Julian Lewis has, and kind of where they see themselves going. Let's see. I cannot find it. I'll be able to find it because I want this to be in the chat. And again, if you didn't watch it, it was really cool. Go offense. Yeah, man, I cannot find it. Catch me. Make sure to follow me on X. I'm going to post this right after the show. This 3-minute video, I'm going to find it. But we'll talk. It'll give you a little bit more of an idea. Let me see. I say that Box Game 22 says, I say this, Coach Prime will never win the big one because he doesn't go after the best players or best coaches. Other teams have OC, DC experience in college over 10 years with success. Yeah, I mean, that's fair just based off of what has happened these last couple years, right? Like Pat Shurmur, right? Probably not the best offensive coordinator, as we all know. Some knew even beforehand, right? And there is that thinking right behind it. And you guys tell me where you're at with this. If they would have had someone different instead of Pat Shurmur the year before, what does that look like, right? Like, so in my opinion, right, and if that makes a little bit of sense, like what if they would have had a different offense for Shedeur Sanders to operate in, right? Because he, in my opinion, he was running a lot more than we even know about, right? And again, I always go back to that against Texas Tech, where he tells Will Shepherd, bitch, can you run a go ball? And you're right, throws it up there. So, yeah, that's just kind of what I think. Again, just my opinion, though. Let me see where we at. Yeah, Coach Prime. Yep, here we go. Yeah, the Box Game 22, this go offense will not work in the Big 12. He only ran this in lower level conference. I think it will, right? And I think someone just commented this below. Yeah, Darren Jennings said, go offense beat Kansas and Houston. And if you would watch UNLV a couple years ago, they were really, really good at this. But I really think Brennan Marion's a really great slam dunk hire. Again, a friend of mine texted me like after great hire because I wanted Neuheisel from UCLA, right? And again, once I started to dive into this offense, I said, okay, I get it. And to be quite honest, let's just say again, just don't know anything, so do not report this as that. Let's just say for some reason Coach Prime has to take care of his health. Brennan Marion is a perfect person to take over the helms at Colorado. So, right, you always kind of think about the future a little bit of what the program looks, but in my opinion, Brennan Marion is a really, really good offense coordinator, and he is one that could eventually, succeed Coach Prime or be the heir, whatever you want to call it, right? But I'd be pretty happy at that. I would be really happy. Brennan Marion would be really good for us, and then he succeeds Coach Prime if that is the case, right? Yeah, Drex, the defense has to respect the QB's running ability. It would have been perfect for Salter. I know. I already thought that. I do think those Salters, can we say Salter's abilities, if that makes sense? I just think there was a lot of leadership issues there that was going on. A lot of things, again, that we won't know about maybe during next offseason, this coming offseason before the season starts. I'm sure we'll start hearing a little bit more. But yeah, it is. I think his skill set would be perfect. Not the person though, if that makes a little bit of sense though. But Julian Lewis can move. Even live, he looked faster than Caden Salter. I cannot stress that enough, right? And he has, he can throw, he's accurate, has a cannon. I think this is going to be a good fit for him. Let me see. Box Game 22 says, I love Prime, but I love the kids more at CU. You don't bring in kids and don't train them good or develop them. Yeah, let's see. Wish the team success. Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is what this is for, right? I think all good conversation to have this offseason. Again, this is what the offseason is about. So, there are going to be some things, right? Even some players that are brought in that we don't know about, right? That we or don't agree with, right? We're gonna be like, man, where the hell does this guy fit? And not every single one of these kids they bring into the portal is gonna work. Not every single coach they bring in is gonna fit. There's gonna be some times, with this offense, I'm just gonna be completely honest. It's not gonna be, all peaches and cream and all these wonderful, amazing things, right? Like rainbows, puppy dogs, all. There's gonna be points in the season where they're gonna be like, what the hell are we doing, right? And we're gonna be upset as a fan base. That is every single season, right? You have to start, you figure some things out. You start, self-scouting, all those things. One of the things I do love about Brendan Marion, though, is he said, I go over the team we're playing and watch every single touchdown scored against them or whomever the coach is, the D coordinator, whoever it is. And a lot of the touchdowns that you will see, you've seen before. And it was like, I sat there to myself like, damn, that would be cool if I had that ability, right? And so, me starting to think a little bit about that, like, all right, one day when I'm a coach, what would I do? It's like, man, I would do exactly that. Go find every single touchdown that was given up, and you do the same thing to that team. It was like, bro, like mad scientist, like building Frankenstein or something. So I thought that was very talented and really cool, though. When he said that, I was like, man, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah, I was one of the, like, that quote might win the offseason, to be honest. Like, so far, it has won the offseason, in my opinion. Demystically's G12. Hey, man, thanks for joining us. Haven't talked to you in quite some time or seen you on for a while. Didn't know Brendan Marion, but I remember UNLV lighting it up, so I'm excited to see Go. Yeah, I don't remember him there, but then once I started going back and it said UNLV, I was like, oh, he was and then looked at it, I was like, oh, he was the offensive coordinator there. That's when it clicked for me as well. So, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I watch every single college football game and know who every single person in, because that is way too massive. And then, those days that we do go to Boulder, right? And this last year it was 7. Last year was 2 years ago, I guess, the Travis and Shador's last year. We went to every game. It's tough to watch all the other games, getting to Boulder, getting out of there, all those things. So, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So please hear me that. But yeah, it's been a long time since I watched a whole season from the couch. So, 2 years, going to be 3 years moving into this next season. So yeah, that's how I was like, okay, I know who this is now. Let's see. They still use a bigger QB for the go offense. Yeah, and again, we'll see what Julian looks like, and I really do expect him to have a good season there. Yeah, Darren Jennings said Juju is a better athlete than Salter. I agree with this 110%. And again, the one thing that got me, it looked like, and you guys tell me if you guys have a different opinion here, but what it looked like to me with Salter was he looked like he was afraid to get hit, 1, and 2, he just wasn't moving fast. Right? Like even that run against BYU that got called back on that shitty holding call that they called on Omarion Miller. Like I really expected him to break it and he was gone and he got caught. Like it was at that point, and I think I've said this before on the show, where I was kind of like, maybe he's just not the athlete we thought he was. And again, he, not saying I am anywhere near Caden Salter. That is not what I'm saying, right? But what we thought he was, if that makes a little sense. That is when it clicked with me, when I was like, well, maybe like I thought you would have been gone there. And, you start thinking to yourself, second guessing, like, well, did they have the angle? Did they have this? He should have broke that, right? If he is athletic, as we say. I just really think that he wasn't as athletic as we thought he was, if that makes sense. And maybe it popped off at Liberty a little more because the competition and the speed's not as fast as well. So just kind of my thinking. Yeah, Salter, Rodney Freeman says Salters and Otis was just terrible players. They, and again, it's, you can have all the talent and gifts in the world, right? And they both had it, but it's you got to want it. You got to want it, right? It's that heart thing, right? Like you cannot, there's no test, there's nothing like that that's going to judge the character and heart of a player, right? And it's will to want to. Because again, Jaheim Otis is he was outside of like a couple of players, but he should have been the best player on defense last year. Like he has all the tools and just never showed up. Yeah, Darren Jennings, and this offense has all elements similar to Kiffin offense. I love Kiffin. Yeah, I love watching Lane Kiffin's offense as well. And I like him. I think he's cool. He's growing on me, I should say. But I do like watching his offenses. They are always really, really, really good. So I'm a big fan of Lane Kiffin. So, and I'm very interested to see what happens at LSU with him. DJ Lagway's in the portal, right? He's going to be entering the portal, right? It almost seems like a match made in heaven, those two. I am like 99.9999% sure that he is going to end up at LSU. That just feels too perfect, in my opinion. Salter was second on the team in rushing yards. The main issue is Pat Shurmur. Yeah, so here's my thing with that. What I really think needs to happen, though, is they got to let one of these running backs get into a groove. The running back by committee, right? We used to think 2 running backs, maybe 3. They're putting in 4 or 5 different running backs in a game when all healthy. Like, you're not going to get into a groove at any point during that game. I think they're going to have to pick one and get rolling. Like, to be completely honest with you guys, like, you got to let a running back get into the groove. You got to let him get hit a couple times. That whole wearing down a defense and getting stronger with each carry. And Colorado hasn't had that. And I think that is what they need to do. I do know you need 2 really good running backs in this offense, sometimes even 3. So, yeah, we'll see what they do with that. But I would love to see just a running back get like 20, 25 carries in a game. I mean, I would be thrilled with it, to be quite honest. On Salter, Willie G Jr. 5217 says he was too hesitant on his decisions. I think, I was thinking that too. Maybe he was thinking too much, but he was never sure. Like, he was never like, I'm gonna put the pedal to the floor, bury the pedal, and get going. And it just never seemed like it. That second gear. With a second, third, fourth, whatever gear, right? That higher gear, right? It was not there. Like, it was never there, like, this season, and it didn't show up, which was pretty frustrating, right? Like, I think we can all agree on that. We've seen it though. We've seen all the tools, right? The throws where you're like, holy shit! Like, this dude has all the tools, but then it was like he's thinking too much or not kicking it into the high gear. Like, it was just missing. It was just missing a lot this season. And again, I wonder, and I think I'm with you here. Like, was he thinking too much? Was there too much put on his plate by Pat Shurmur? Again, I think that was a huge issue. That was a huge issue for this team this last season. And you even start to go back to last year, right? You start thinking, what does this look like? Like, what happens if you would have put a different offensive coordinator with Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, right? LeJontay Wester, our guy Jimmy Horn, like, all of them dudes. Like, what happens if you would have put that? What happens if you would have put a different offensive coordinator with that? Because, again, it did feel like a lot of the time Shedeur was just out there doing his thing because, again, Shedeur's really, really smart. And, again, I never understood that when he was coming out, when people would talk about, oh, well, the coverages and this and that. It's like, you guys have not watched a single Colorado game. Like, that dude would go up and tell the players what to do, come to the sidelines and tell them exactly what to run. This is what we're running. So it does. I am curious to see what would have happened. I am curious to see what would have happened with the different offensive coordinator, though. Trackhawk will thrive. Yeah, and that's one, too. When we were getting into it, though, my understanding is they will probably look at a medical red shirt, him and Simeon Price. So I do think Trackhawk would. He was getting ready to, in my opinion, before he got hurt, I think he was ready to just break the thing open. Like, he was ready to take control of that running back room because, holy shit, that dude can fly once he catches the ball out of the backfield. Like, yeah, I am still high on DeKalen Taylor, the Trackhawk. So I'm with you there, man. Let's see. Don Peasy Wheezy. How long has this channel been around? Man, so when I took it over, we've been going since about late July. Took it over. They had this company, the company I work for, the Voice of College Football. network. So again, if you didn't know that we cover all Power Four football teams, there is a Voice of College Football main channel. The Michigan channel is really big. Again, not that matters on here, but the Michigan channel does really, really well. They're, most Power Four teams are covered here. And we are getting ready to launch and I've done a couple videos, but we're getting ready to launch our college football recruiting, which I will also host that as well. So we're just trying to figure some things out for that. So there will be that recruiting channel as well, where we talk about all things portal, high school football, all these different things. So, but I've been here since mid-July, started before the season, maybe even early July. I think it was late July, actually. So it was kind of there. There was a couple videos before me. But again, so yeah, I've been at this all season long and started this summer, though. But glad to have you here, man. Appreciate you here. Yeah, Darren Jennings, perfect offense for that elevation. I mean, it feels like last year that was not taken advantage enough, right? Like the elevation, because it's a real thing. Like, you ask any team that comes here, right? Even, the Broncos, right? Any team that comes and plays the Denver Broncos, it's like, man, like you cannot breathe. Like you make that run and you're on the sidelines, like, you're sitting there with the oxygen mask on. I don't know if you guys, I'm not a Bronco fan, but I was watching them this past Sunday, and you had Micah Parsons before he got hurt. I don't know if you guys saw this. He came out and was hitting that oxygen immediately. Like that dude was like, it was crazy. I was watching. I was like, man, that is a big deal. And you don't see that at the college football games, and Colorado has to pick up the pace a little bit, get it going, and try to make that team, because by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, or even mid-second quarter with the elevation, man, they should be breathing heavy with the elevation, right? Georgia Tech last year, none of that happened. It almost like they got stronger, but they need to get up and get going, in my honest opinion. So I'm with you there, man. They got to do something about that, right? And if they can get up quicker in these games, you let your pass rush get to work, right? You let London Merritt and Alex McPherson pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. Man, that's a recipe, right? That's a recipe for disaster, man, for the other team. So I hope that that's their plan. And again, we'll see how it. Plans are always great, right? Until what is it? Till someone hits you in the mouth or whatever. Who said? I can't remember who said that, but right, plans are always good that way. But we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do. But I'm really excited. The elevation needs to be much more taken advantage of. And then, okay, so back to this, though. Places that I think that Colorado's good at. You guys let me know if you think if this needs some adjustments. QB. So I put Julian Lewis. Julian Lewis in this go-go offense is going to be exciting. And again, I really do think that. I think he's going to have a big-time year. They have a good backup who can come in and operate the offense and stop. And I know what other people think. Well, he's not mobile enough. And again, I think we got to kind of get that out of our head a little bit with this offense. So think about it that way. But I do think they are going to bring in another quarterback, though. I would say that you can never have enough depth at any position. Are we talking? Yeah, Darren Jennings says, how you feel about McKinney? We're talking about DJ McKinney, right? And I'm pretty sure. Yeah, put in the comments if I'm pretty sure you're talking about DJ, though. But yeah, I expect another quarterback to be brought in, not another one that's like going to take the starting position or anything like that. But you need to get a solid backup. Yeah. So Darren Jennings said yes about McKinney. Man, honestly, I didn't include him in my cornerbacks because I think he's going to leave. This is just my opinion. I really do think you're going to see him enter the portal. I think he's gone, in my honest opinion, right? I just a couple reports that leaked, a couple things that I heard. It really does feel like I would be shocked if he comes back. Just a couple of things that I've heard about that have taken place, right, within the program with DJ McKinney. So I do not think he's coming back. I don't even think he has any intention of coming back. If whatever it is that I heard is true, I don't think it's necessary for him. I don't think this is the place that Colorado's a place for him. So we'll leave it at that. And the reason I didn't mention him in cornerback is because of that. So he's not coming back in my opinion. And again, like I said, everything that I've heard. Yeah, why would McKinney leave with 1 year remaining? So, yeah, Don Peasy, I will just tell you this, bro. Like, I can't say a ton, right? But I will say, just you put two and two together, right? Like, think about how bad the season was. Think about how much, how many problems that we've heard about, the locker room and all these different things. You kind of put two and two together and kind of figure why he wouldn't be coming back. And he's not. I don't think he's declaring for the NFL draft. I think he's transferring. So again, I would be really, really shocked if you see DJ McKinney back. And again, from my understanding and from what I heard, I don't even know why you would want him back at that point. Again, this will come out at some point later on, maybe. And if it doesn't, right? But again, I would be shocked if he did come back. Running back. So let's dive into this. Dallin Hayden returning, Michael Welch. And again, like we talked about, expect Simeon Price to return and DeKalen. So you look at these two. I do expect it back, and I think that's a pretty good. That's a good running back room, right? Those four. And Simeon Price was another one where he was starting to get rolling, and then the injury took place, right? Him and DeKalen. It was almost I think they both got hurt against Houston. We talked about last week, but I'm pretty sure it was against Houston, and we didn't see him the rest of the season. And that sucked. That really sucked last year because those two were going to get rolling here. Dallin Hayden, man, that dude needs more carries. Just point blank, that dude needs way more carries than he was getting. He needs to touch the ball way more. I think they have three really good running backs, and Michael Welch, maybe it was sophomore slump or whatever it may be. Man, he just looked like he was running in mud last year. I don't know what it was. He looked slow. It just looked like he was running in mud. And again, I was very high on him. I still am. I'm just curious to see what he looks like next year. But he looked like he was running in mud last year. Yeah, Price was cooking for sure. He looked good last year, man. That he was starting to get the hang of things, and I was like, man, he's about ready to get rolling here. And then boom, injury took place. So I expect them to get a medical red shirt though. Next one, wide receivers. So I think they are set, right? You have Amarian, Quanell Farrakhan, Quentin Gibson, Cam Michael. And I'm curious to see what Cam Michael does a little bit. I'm not sure, again, I haven't heard anything, either way, but I'm just kind of curious to see if he does return or if he doesn't. So really, yeah, Cam Michael, really excited to see what he does, but I'm very high on him. Just that speed, man. Speed kills, He like play that Cliff Branch role that he used to play at CU, right? Speed kills, right? Draylon Miller, and he's one that they need to commit. He's either going to play running back or he's going to play wide receiver. They have to figure out what to do with him, right? They absolutely have to. They absolutely have to figure out what they're going to do with Draylon Miller. And then Hakeem Williams, right? The big 5-star recruit they got from Florida State. Haven't heard anything about him. Didn't see him play a lot last year, but we know the talent's there. So I'm curious to see what he does and where he ends up or what the plan is for him. Because, as of right now, it looks like he's going to be buried on the depth chart a little bit, right? So I'm curious to see what he does. But I do think that room is good to go. I do think, again, they're going to add more players there, right? They already added Xavier McDonald, and they're going to add some more players there, right? No question about that. Now, defensive freshman of the year. Who are we? I'm going to assume we're talking about London Merritt. I saw something earlier today, but couldn't. I was at work and I couldn't actually see what it was. Is that what it was awarded today? Or was that yesterday? I did see something on London Merritt, and I would assume that's who we're talking about here. But I had D-end places they're good at, that D-end edge. Right, London and Alex, right? London Merritt, Alex McPherson, them two dudes, man, they wreaked havoc last year. They're going to have another year under their belt. Those are going to be your leaders on the defensive side of the ball. Those two and Tawfiq Bayard, right? Those are going to be your leaders, right? And London Merritt, man, that dude is going to have a monster year next year. And the crazy part is he's just a sophomore, he's going to be just a true sophomore. So, Yeah, I'm excited. Nikhil Webb-Walker and Quincy Wiggins will return. I expect them to land a couple more defensive ends as well, right? That depth piece is absolutely huge. So we'll see, but that would be my expectation for the edge DN room. And then your tight end, Zach Atkins and Zane D'Souza and Corbin Laser. So you have those three. What I would really love to see, though, is them to get an athletic tight end, like one of those game-breaking tight ends, right? Run that vertical route, catch sit there, catch a crosser, take it to the house. Just one of those one that has game-breaking speed. So, and again, I think Zach Atkins is a hell of a tight end as well, hell of an athlete. But we'll see what they had. I expect them to have him, but if they didn't, I think they're going to be they're good there. And Zach Atkins, I'm really interested to see him in this offense as well. And again, like we talked, I do expect them to have more players. This is going to be, you can never have too many good players. And as we've seen this past year, that depth chart, the injury report that was coming out week after week after week was just getting longer and longer and longer. You're going to need depth, right? And again, those trenches, linebackers, cornerbacks, you need depth there. Right. We know that they take a beating throughout the season. We know that they're going to miss some games. They need depth there. And again, they need to focus linebacker, cornerback, and defensive tackle. So those are going to be your three that you want to focus on. So that is mine. Again, drop in the comments what you think are should be the number one priority, the biggest needs for next year's Buffs team. Drop those in there. But that's kind of where I'm sitting at, though. So, and again, don't be shocked to see a QB added, right? Your edge, O-line, running back, wide receiver, tight end, any of those positions. Depth is always needed, though. So, and then so for next week's show, though, so I know Christmas is next week, right? The 25th. We'll see when we jump into the show. Just be on the lookout. It's kind of this time of year is kind of hit or miss, but I do want to bring in, when we talk next week, maybe we can jump on. So it's Tuesday, possibly. What is next Tuesday? I'll shoot for next Tuesday. Actually, I thought, my calendar's off. Tuesday of next week, and bring some portal players that you guys are interested in, that you think can bring something to this, Colorado team. Because that's what I'm going to do and say, like, this is my wish list of players, right? Kind of like with NFL teams, you have your NFL free agency wish list, right? Bring your portal wish list. And I'm going to bring mine as well. Let's see if we can get those posted in here as well. But again, I think next week's show is going to be a lot of fun, though, before the portal actually opens. Does the state of Colorado produce D tackles? There was T.I. from Cherry Creek. It just depends. It's hit or miss, like the way that the recruiting works here in the state of Colorado, the way that football, it's hit or miss, right? It's not going to constantly produce. This past year produced a good chunk of Power 4 players, even, your FBS players this past year. I was looking at next year's, I think on 3 and 24/7, there's like 3 to 5 on each of them that have just players actually ranked in the state. Again, not saying there's not players that aren't very good. There are still some good players, but to that level of a D tackle to be, just a dog, not necessarily, but I think Colorado's starting to trend that way. We'll see if it can continue, but not necessarily. And the guys that are in state, they typically don't, over these past few years, they haven't signed with Colorado, right? Like your TIs, your Braylon Hodges, those guys, they didn't sign with Colorado, and again, for whatever reason it may be, right? They went to Oregon and Washington, in those places. So Colorado's going to have to, build that pipeline in state with those particular schools, your Cherry Creek high schools of the world, your Valor Christians, your Ralston Valleys, those schools they're going to have to start to build those relationships with, and try to get those kids to Boulder to stay in state, right? Even right there, Fairview and Boulder, right? Which is still beyond belief to me, but is what it is at this point. So to answer your question, they haven't for a long time, though, as a defensive tackle. As far as I can't remember for quite some time. Obviously the one that comes to come to mind right away is Calais Campbell, Denver South High School. But that is a long time ago, which is crazy. He's still playing in the league. But, and again, I'm sure I'm missing a couple guys, a handful of guys on that D tackle position from the state of Colorado. But, just trying to think back a little bit, not that I can remember. But with all that being said, do appreciate you guys joining me tonight. We'll be here next Tuesday, shoot for 5:36, somewhere between then. Bring your wish list with you, your portal wish list. I'll have mine ready to roll. Have a graphic up, and we'll go through it one by one, and you guys give me the, yeah, we want him. No, we don't want him. Either way, and we can talk about him. I think this is what this offseason is going to be about. Also, make sure to give me a follow on X at Manny_303 and Instagram at 303_Manny. I'm going to go find that 3-minute video of the go-go offense and take a look at it, though. It is really cool. Because, I heard, it's all a triple option offense and this and that. I was like, why would they do that? Like, we're not Air Force, wrong Colorado school. So be on the lookout for that a little bit. I'm going to go try to find that here this evening. But again, you guys catch us on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, or whatever it is you get your podcast. Again, really do appreciate you guys. Off-season news, I know it's not, it's not the funnest as in season or, everything that happens within that with recruiting and all the different news notes, all those things. But, again, as news starts to come out, we'll go live when we need to. So just make sure you guys hit that follow or the subscribe button, like the video if you could. And again, just could not do this without you guys. This channel was essentially just starting up when we first started in July. We're almost 5 months later at this point. And again, just really appreciate each and every single one of you. But until Friday, we'll catch you on Friday. And, like Heisman Trophy winning Travis Hunter said, "Go Buffs, baby." All right, guys, have a good evening. Have a great rest of your week.